10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
There's no need to fear.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, cause I'm black.
Hey everybody, I am so excited. This is the first episode of Supa Black. We are an all-Black panel podcasting experience where we talk about all things superhero, past, present, and future. From Marvel and DC to anime, there is no stone we will leave unturned as we take a deep dive into the genre of superpowered individuals and the worlds they inhabit. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Zuri. I use she, her pronouns, and you can follow me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. That's Zuri with a Z, not Suri with an S. And I'll leave it to the rest of today's Supa panel to introduce themselves. Take it away.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Jamal James. My pronouns are he, him, his. You can follow me at the Jamal James on Instagram or Facebook. I don't really use Twitter as well, but also excited to be here.
Hey y'all, my name is Michael Andreas, he, him pronouns. You can follow me on my Instagram at Michael_Andreas. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't use it, so follow it at your own peril. But yeah.
Hello everybody, my name is Jason Williams and I am at Blue Ranger 83 on Instagram. My pronouns are he, him, and I can't wait to get started. I'm so excited for our first day.
Hello, everybody. My name is Omar Washington. My pronouns are he, him. And I don't have any public social media at the moment, and I will be getting that out very soon. I'm just here to talk comic books and movies and have a bunch of fun.
Yeah, and this, oh my God, I'm so excited. I am a spaz, and you will learn that over time. But like I said, don't forget, by the way, to follow the podcast itself on Supa Podcast. Sorry, it's Supa Black Podcast on IG, and it's Supa Podcast on Twitter. And yeah, now that we're all assembled, let's get started. Today, for our first episode, I think it's only fair that we talk about origin stories, the importance of an origin story to a character, and our own origin stories, how we got started with superheroes and comic books and all that nitty gritty stuff. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first since my time is a little bit sporadic today. First of all, I love origin stories. Like, out of all the things that I can watch unfold on the screen, especially in a comic book movie, I love seeing how a superhero began. Is like one of my favorite things. My own origin story, my own entry, it's tough, man. It's tough to like remember the one thing that like got you into comic books and anime and video games. You know, I'm into all of that stuff. The thing that I would tell you, the first comic book series that I remember really, really being into was X-Men. And specifically, there was one cover. There's a cover where I should have looked up the name of the issue, but there's a cover where Magneto is like pulling the adamantium out of Wolverine, and it was like this holographic cover. And I had this comic book when I was younger, and I wish I'd held on to it. But I so vividly remember that moment in that comic book being like something that just kind of jumped me off. Since then, I've become, obviously, I'm wearing a Batman shirt. I'm a huge Batman fan. But yeah, comic books and Spider, and you know, going from X-Men, it kind of jumped off into Spider-Man, and then eventually Batman, and then into Dragon Ball Z for anime. And so I definitely feel like X-Men and probably the cartoon is what led me to the comics, which is what led me to the whole universe.
I'm sure you're excited about the reboot happening then.
Oh my gosh, yes, and they're picking it up from where the last one ended. I got to go back and rewatch all of them now just to get ready and remind myself, because I haven't watched it in what 20, 30 years maybe. It's been since I last watched the X-Men cartoon, so it's time to dive back into that again. That'll be fun. So yeah, I would say X-Men was my entry point for sure into the world of comic books and anime and all of that stuff.
You got a favorite, Michael? You got a favorite X-Men?
Oh man, I'm a Wolverine guy. I'm a Wolverine guy, but I also it's so weird, but I also really love like Magneto. Um, I think that kind of speaks maybe to my dichotomy a little bit. Because yeah, because it's like I just understand his motivations. You know, I might not always agree with his methods, but I understand his motivation and why he feels the way he feels. You know, I feel like anybody that's experienced, especially this country, being a black man, can kind of understand why Magneto might, you know, take the direction that he takes. So yeah, those are probably my two favorites.
And I mean, Michael Fassbender was fabulous, even though the last trilogy was bonkers after a certain point, obviously. But Michael Fassbender was fabulous as Magneto.
So good.
So,
He was giving it. He was definitely giving it.
Well, I'm gonna have to get out of here.
Michael has to go.
I'll jump back in later, but you know, it was nice to talk to y'all. And get
I'm glad we got you in. Bye, Michael.
See you soon.
Talking to you.
See you guys.
So I'll go next. So the reason why I got into, I'm not a comic book reader, like a traditional comic book reader. I've started reading a bunch because they have the Marvel Unlimited app, which, by the way, if you guys don't have it, is super awesome. There's like 29,000 comics on there for like $70 a year. Totally worth it. But I remember my dad and I are really good sketch artists. And when I was really, really young, we have a like a coffee table book that is, I think it might be DC and Marvel, but I remember specifically my dad would draw me pictures from it. And there was one picture in particular he drew of Jean Grey at her wedding floating with Professor X, doing the father-daughter dance. And I just remember that so vividly, and that drawing that we did, and he like helped let me color and like all this other stuff. So yeah, I remember that being like one of my first like forays into loving the artistry of comic books. They're so beautiful, like, and the amount of work that it takes to do the outlines and the ink and all the stuff, and they've only gotten more complicated over the years. So it's really amazing to see the artistry behind comic books. But like, I am like, as Michael said before me, I am a Batman girl. Like that's my jam all day, every day. The animated series like is the love of my life. If I had a love of my life, it is the Batman, the animated series from the 90s. And I love Danny Elfman making the Batman theme music. I love I love every single thing about like any character that they've added into there, like from Harley Quinn to Baby Doll, like so many various villains from the Rogues Gallery that are like my staples of how I understand Batman today, and just like the superhero genre at large. So that's like really where I got started. And I will talk to everybody about any of this stuff for hours at a time. So I thought I might as well make a podcast about it. And that's why we're here today.
All right.
That's okay. I'll take off from there because I feel like I could also talk about this stuff for hours, like literal hours. I got started, I guess, really, really young, and it's mostly because of my dad. Like my dad, he is obsessed with comic books. He had like a whole bunch of them. But he's obsessed with Silver Surfer specifically. He loves the Silver Surfer. And he doesn't feel like that he's ever been given like due diligence with like Marvel yet, and I feel that way. I think he will get that due diligence. But when I grew up, my dad like exposed me. Like the first thing I saw, I think I was Batman. I was 4 years old with Michael Keaton. But I used to be obsessed with like Superman, The Flash, Batman. But like Superman was my end, and there was something about it. About like I remember being, I think, like 9 or 10. That my dad gave me like the death of Superman, and I had just gotten started like with being exposed to superheroes, and I didn't want Superman to die. Like I didn't want that comic book to be like I just hated the fact that he died, because there's something, and that's maybe it says something about how I feel about today, but there's something I think precious about someone who's like, sure, I got an origin where I've been like my entire like history has been destroyed, and I'm on this planet with people that I'm not part of, but I want to do good things just because it's the right thing to do. It's not just like about being cool, about being special. It's just like I have an opportunity to do good things, and great. And I'm like, for some reason, that's still for people like it's mind-boggling. I think that idea is just like just doing a good thing, doing the right thing is hard, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be at all. And that I kind of I love that. I was like, I would like to figure out how I can make that part of my life of just like trying to be good to people, trying to be right to people, even when it is hard or when it's not. But I love the dynamic between Superman and Batman. I love that you brought up Batman the animated series because I love that show, but I also really love the Superman animated series too. Yeah, I love both of those. I love the Superman Batman adventures, like when they collaborated together. I loved everything. I loved Superman. I love Superman and Batman together. I have comic books of both of them. They are a pillar of like comic book goodness to me, which is why I'm so mad at those movies. So mad at those movies.
Wait, which movies? Which Batman? The Batman
Man of Steel.
No, the recent.
Batman versus Superman. I'm mad.
Yes.
Justice League don't matter, even if it's Joss Whedon, Zack. I don't care. You, like you do not get Superman. I'm sorry, you don't get pick up some Bruce Timm goodness. My God,
I don't know how Bruce Timm has not been involved in those movies. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. He should at least be a story editor or something, but he is not involved. Like I know that animation's his thing. I get it. But they really need him for.
But he's great with storytelling. He really is great as a storyteller. That's all I need.
He's a great storyteller. I think he kind of effed up with what's the Killing Joke, where I was like, I don't know what's happening here, Barbara. I don't need any of this.
Yeah, it's some more.
That was a little too far. That was a fanboy theory that he wanted to see brought to fruition that I was not entertained.
I was not on. I was like, you didn't need this. It's fine.
It's okay.
But that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Like Superman was my big introduction into a lot of things, and I still to this day, even with the exception of the Superman and Lois show for the CW, like there's many CW shows that I actually don't like, but that one I'm like I feel like they've touched more on Superman than in recent memory.
I agree.
That's what I would have to say. But yeah, Superman was my big one, and now I'm like obsessed with Captain America because of MCU. I'm obsessed with Daredevil. I've been obsessed with Daredevil for a long time. I have 10 years worth of comic books from Daredevil. I love Daredevil. But yeah, Superman was my big guy. He was my intro.
And one day we'll talk about how Lex Luthor in Superman the Animated Series is definitely black, and I don't care what anyone says.
No. I actually thought he was black, but I also thought he could have been actually Indian. I thought he could have been of Indian descent. But I was like, this is a person of color. He's a person of color.
Wait. Are you talking about the voice actor, or are you talking about the character?
No,
the character.
No, I'm talking about the character.
The voice actor is clearly Clancy Brown.
It's clearly white.
They drew him. Yeah, the way they drew him, he was definitely not the regular typical Lex Luthor.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can go next.
Great.
I got started. I think I'm 80s kid, 90s kid. So I was definitely into more cartoons than I was comic books at the time. And being a gay kid, like I always gravitated towards the strong female characters. So Thundercats was like the jam. And I was a Chitara fan through and through. My mother would always buy me Panthro because she said he was the black one. But I loved Chitara. Like, I was like, oh, the leopard, and she's fast. Like, okay. And then fast forward to the 90s, and it's X-Men. I don't know any, especially queer black kids. I don't know any queer black kid that didn't pretend that they were Storm. I was Storm all day, every day, outside, pretending that I controlled the elements. Like, that was... They were always the most powerful, but got the least amount of shine, in my opinion. Those strong female characters in those cartoons. So definitely Chitara, Storm, and then my ultimate Power Rangers, Blue Ranger, and also low-key Kimberly. At that time, by the time the Power Rangers came out, I was around 10, 11 years old. I couldn't really like the girl characters, out loud, but low-key Kimberly was it. That bow and arrow, everything about it. So those cartoons, especially the 90s X-Men and the original Power Rangers, like really shaped my superhero fandom. And especially, I don't know, especially the X-Men. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I just knew once I hit puberty, like I was gonna get powers. Um, I was like trying to figure out how it would work, but like those characters really shaped yeah, my superhero fandom, and still to this day. Speaking of, um, you guys were talking, Jamal, you were talking about Silver Surfer not getting his due. Your dad saying he's not getting his due. I feel the exact same way about Storm. I think she gets looked over in every X-Men movie, and she's the most powerful. She's one of the most powerful mutants in the universe.
That's true.
And
That's true.
she gets no shine. Or she just doesn't get the respect that she deserves. They got her, you know, blowing wind, and
I gotta say, like, I remember, I think it was Michael bringing up Wolverine. And I was like, I think that's the problem. I think they were giving so much love to Wolverine that they like didn't give love to everybody else. And the X-Men is not just like, yeah, Wolverine is a very famous character. He's like the most, I guess, one of the most popular of X-Men. But like Storm, Colossus, Jubilee, Cyclops, Phoenix, like they all have their own.
Well, don't even talk about Phoenix, because they try to do Phoenix every time and they F it up every single time.
I'm also so happy that you said Jubilee, because that's another very prominent queer character that kids love. Like the style, the yellow jacket, the gloves, she's shooting fireworks. I mean, like they were like iconic as far as female characters go, and characters that queer kids really like gravitated towards. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it, man. It was just like it was all those strong female superheroes that kind of felt like they were left out. And I guess maybe that, you know, was kind of mirroring how I felt, you know, as a kid or whatever. And maybe that's why I gravitated so much towards them. But yeah, that's how I got into this superhero life, if you will.
Do you did you like the movie? I forgot to ask you, the Power Rangers movie, the first Power Rangers movie. Did you like that movie?
Yes.
I love that movie.
Because I really did. Like the way that they did it, and the way that they elevated the costumes, they elevated the Zords, like even how they went and they got the new power. Like I was into it. Now, when we get to Turbo, yeah, I got some gripes. I was a little upset about Turbo, mainly because there was a little kid as the Blue Ranger, and in my mind, I had already written that story, fan fiction, and I was supposed to be the little kid. And when I saw this little kid in the movie, I was like, "Yo, why he steal my track? Like my track?" But like, yes, the original Power Rangers movie, perfection. I thought it was great.
This might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm only saying this mostly because of an actor standpoint, and you're just like people who give it. I don't know who the actor is playing Ivan Ooze, but there's something about that dude that made that movie for me. He is just giving everything possible. In a way that I'm like, I'm here for the Rangers, but I got this villain here that I'm like, I'm on your journey, bro.
It was a great journey. I could watch that movie forever. It came on, I think it was during the pandemic last year, and I was sitting there and I said, yes, I'm watching this entire thing right now. This is what we're doing. And then that song, the closing credits song, like, where is that's all I think about. That's all I think about. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But
cheesy, so good.
Wait, I'm gonna let Richard into the room. He's here.
Awesome.
Well, good to meet everybody. Richard Harden here. I'm actually born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. That's like its own superpower. And you know, it's one of those things. Growing up, I used to watch all of the cartoons in the mornings, read the comic books, and real life wanted to be a superhero. But I went through that. You know, the origin story of your parents. My dad's from northern Florida, which is the same as southern Georgia. Mom's from Atlanta. Not aliens. Radiation will kill you. So I just settled on I'll make a lot of money and get to be friends with technology. And that's been my life. I still right now work out really hard just in case they need a black dude.
These days, that seems to be
You
That
never
seems to be the
know.
criteria. You
I
never
was
know.
gonna ask. I was gonna ask. Did you try any kind of experiments, like getting bit by try to introduce a spider to radioactivity and try to get it to bite you or something?
Can you imagine how many children have let themselves be bit by spiders?
Listen,
I just thought about that, but like wild.
I don't like spiders, so no.
So no.
Spider-Man is the most popular superhero of all,
Period. Yeah.
Absolutely.
and one of the most popular icons of all time, next to Mario and Mickey Mouse.
hmm
So
Mhm.
period.
Well, and you know, he's such an everyman character because, especially for who they were targeting, it was like everybody could sympathize with that flawed superhero who's the wimpy kid, but now he's super powerful, trying to hide, being poor and powerful at the same time. It was magic. Now there's angst for superheroes.
mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
and if y'all saw the new Spider-Man movie,
I know
oh my
some
goodness.
people
Not yet,
haven't.
not
I
yet.
have
Oh my
I have not
goodness.
seen it.
I don't.
I actually
I
can't. I
Well,
had
would love to
tickets
talk
for
about it,
today
but
and
I
I
know some people
canceled
haven't.
them.
So
We,
yeah.
I had tickets for today and I canceled them.
I heard
Oh,
Omarion is sitting in the movie
Yeah.
theater though, so
not
y'all know.
Omarion.
Omarion is there.
Every time.
Uh,
That's what
And
I
he's
hear
singing
now. I don't even know how to say the original
I
variant.
don't.
What is it? I don't know.
Omicron.
Oh my
Omicron.
But
God.
Omicron.
oh,
just so
I thought
everyone
you.
It
knows,
I
sounds
thought
like a
you meant. I
transformer.
thought you were actually talking about Omarion for a second.
like just so everyone knows, we are recording this episode shortly after Christmas, and that's why we're talking about this right now.
Yeah.
But Omar, if you want to go ahead and tell us
Yeah.
your origin
So
story.
okay, my origin story, my story in comic books and movies is a very conflicted one, right? And so let me go back to it. My dad got me into comic books, of course. I know that sounds familiar,
And
right?
Omar is
And
my brother, for the record,
yeah,
Come on,
my
bro.
older brother.
Hey.
yes. Yeah, so my dad, he got me into comic books. He had a small collection of comic books back in the day. Me and my older brother. He took me to see, I think my intro was also Superman, my big intro, because I actually went to the theater to see Superman 2. I was too young to see
Mm.
Superman 1 because I'd just been born in the late 70s, but Superman 2, and the line was wrapped around, I remember it was multiple blocks, the longest line I've ever seen for any movie, period, since, right? And it was amazing. It was amazing. And for that reason alone, Superman is my favorite character. He's my favorite comic book character. Um, and therein lies a conflict because Marvel is my favorite universe.
Mm.
Mm.
And yeah, Superman, his this the tale that's been told so many times of his origin, the litany of powers he has, it always just amazed me. And I know they've retconned it multiple times, but yeah, just Superman. Also, all right, so I guess later in my teens, I started collecting comic books myself. I started getting a little money, and then I really ramped up collecting to the point where I had I think I had over 3,000 comics, multiple duplicates. I was collecting like the Death of Superman. I had five of those. I had comic books even going back to the 60s. I had like X-Men #6 was one of my big gets, right? I had Spider-Man like early ones, like number 20 something. I had like a lot of them. The first appearance of Hobgoblin, I had that with the tattoo insert inside. So,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
yeah, I had the first appearance of Venom, the first appearance of Carnage. I had all of that stuff, right?
Mm.
And my love for comics was so big that of course I was into Valiant comics, Image comics, like everything. So yeah, I just love, characters with, I don't know, team-based comics, all the Superman clones like Supreme and all the others. Yeah, I mean, and another conflict with that is, some years ago I sold my comic collection, and it kind of hurt to do
All
so.
of it?
I sold my comic collection.
Wow.
I tell this story, I mainly because I didn't have space, right? And I didn't have space. I kept it at a family member's house for a long time, for years, and then I put it in my house, and it was in a closet. And I was having more kids, and I needed more space, and
Mm.
so I tried to sell it to a place out in Texas because they would buy your collection in bulk. And I didn't want to sit outside with all my comics at a table and try to sell like so many people do. I didn't have the time, the resources. So I said, let me try to sell it. And that company offered me $600 for all of my comic books.
Wow.
And
All 3,000?
it over 3,000. It blew me away. And I sent them a list. I had everything. I had an Excel spreadsheet. I sent it to them. They said, yeah. And I sent them the approximate conditions because, you can only tell once you get it in your hands. But yeah, and they offered me 600, and they said, and that was being generous because the shipping alone was going to be half that cost. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so when I started shopping around other people, it was just not, people were just not biting. And I realized that the only way I was going to get good money, like really good money, was to be one of those people who sit outside and sell individually.
That's
And
why.
because I couldn't, I had to sell it. I did better than 600, but nowhere near what the value of those comics were worth. So
I feel
it
you. I
hurt.
feel
I got probably a couple grand for it, and that really hurt because I know the value
Yeah.
of those comics was
you. No.
in the tens of thousands, easy,
Yeah.
you
Easy.
know,
Yeah.
easy. And but yeah, it was something I had to do. I had always envisioned passing my comics down to my kids, you
Oh.
know, but for having kids and not having enough room at the time is why I had to get rid of them. So, but yeah, yeah, I just want to take you guys down that part of my memory lane. But yeah, it's yeah, I
Um,
love comp. Go ahead.
Omar, did you collect? Is it you or anybody? Did you guys collect X-Men cards or anybody or like
I had
superhero
all of them.
cards? Because that's what I used to do was like X-Men cards.
I had
So many
series
X-Men
one, two,
cards.
and three. I had
Mhm.
series one, two, and three of the X-Men
Mm.
cards. I had series one, two, and three of the Marvel Universe cards with all the hologram cards.
Yes, the
I had the
hologram
Prism. I had the
cards.
Spider-Man cards with the Prism cards. I had all of them, and I got rid of
Wow.
all of them. It was bad. It was because once I
Nah,
got rid of
bro.
the comics, it was like I couldn't hold on to the cards. It was like, what's the point?
I
You know?
collected those Pokemon cards, and that was pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't
It
know about no
really,
other cards existed except
Yeah.
Pokemon. I was like, oh,
yeah.
give me
Yo,
two
and the
Pikachu,
old school,
three.
the old school X-Men cards, like you could put them to. They were like cards that went together, so you could put them together, and they would create an entire scene,
Yeah,
right? So I
Oh,
had like the
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
plastic,
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
and you put them in the
yes.
sleeves, and like they would all
I had
connect, and they were like an
I
entire
had three
scene.
I had three binders of like
Yeah,
three big thick binders full of different comic book cards and their universes and things like that. And
yeah.
you were
so yeah,
blowing
and
my mind. I didn't know. I didn't know that
yeah,
existed.
yeah, and lastly, I just wanted to say I know you guys are big fans of Power Rangers. I watched the Power Rangers in the 90s. I did. And I enjoyed it. Maybe because I'm a little bit older than some of you here. I don't know about all, but some of you. Power Rangers was always kind of like a parody of Voltron to me. And so for that reason, I could not I liked Power Rangers, but it was always like a spoof of Voltron. So
I
I,
mean,
I couldn't
you're
really latch onto it the same way.
yeah,
Hmm.
you're not wrong because I mean, a lot of that early footage, especially the first 2 or 3 seasons of Power Rangers, were Super Sentai Warriors from Japan, and they literally
Mm-hmm.
just took stock footage from that TV show,
Mm,
spliced it
mm.
in with the scenes that the American actors did. And just that's why, whenever you'd see like the Megazord fighting a monster, it was always in some random rock quarry that you're like, where in
Part of
California is
it.
this?
What
Like,
part?
what is going on? And why are they always here?
Strange. It looks like
Because,
Japan. What is
right?
happening
Hmm.
here?
Mhm.
And as a kid, like you look at that and you're like, this looks weird. But as an adult, it's really noticeable. You're like, oh, they literally just took some video from this old TV show and spliced it together, and that's what they did for a lot of the Power Ranger series. Is they use um, versions of Super Sentai Warrior from
Mm.
Japan, which is produced by the same company, the Saban Entertainment.
Oh,
It's all the
uh-huh.
same. But like
Mm.
yeah, so they spliced that in. So you're not wrong. It was pretty much essentially that.
And to wrap up my little my little origin story, bringing us up to now, I just all the movies that have been coming out, well, Marvel movies. Um, I've been I'm thoroughly happy with what they were able to do. being a big fan of the comics, of course, I have, I nitpick, but
Mhm.
I understand that for a broader audience, they had to make certain changes,
Hmm.
and not happy at all with what DC has done. Only when they make their individual projects, they're much better off trying not to make a cohesive universe, and maybe that's just what they should do. Yeah, and like you said, I'm not as angry at Man of Steel, Jamal, as you are, but Batman versus Superman, and especially Joss Whedon's Justice League. Oh my God, yes.
It's I want to say that it's not so much
It
about
was
anger, all right? It's just like there are certain choices that I do not feel like are Clark Kent Superman at
Killing
all.
off Jonathan Kent makes no sense to me.
It's not
I
even
will
about
say,
the
I will,
killing off. Like
but
he technically
that's the
supposed to
part that
die.
bothers me. I know, but
The
like
way he
it
died.
was the
The way he
beginning of the,
dies.
it's the
Yes.
beginning of the whole thing. Why do we
Clark
do
would not
this?
just sit still and let that happen. The whole thing about like the heart attack that Jonathan Kent is like, I have no choice. I don't have any action to stop my father from dying. Like that's a lesson right
Nobody
there.
would have even
But
saw
you
him.
have an action of like going into this tornado and saving your damn dad. I mean, you have that. I mean, like
You can do that.
Nobody would have seen him. That's the funny thing.
And there it is. And there it is.
I'm sorry, Zack Snyder. You did my boy
a
wrong.
whole other avenue that I'd never even thought about in that movie before.
So it's not anger. It's just like it was very much a disappointment. I remember being in the movie theater watching Man of Steel for the first time, and when he got to like that point, I was like, my brain went, wait, what? Like when he made that choice, that my brain couldn't fathom it. And then towards the end, when he had to like kill Zod, I remember someone getting up and walking out. The minute that happened, I was just like, I feel for you, man. I just remember, I was like, that doesn't feel like it does. There's something about like darkening Superman that works, I guess, for other people, but like Superman is supposed to be different. That's what makes him Superman, as well as like special. I don't need him to be like everybody else. I don't.
Right.
That's it. I don't need him to do that.
Right, and then
yeah.
and
sorry,
then you
Zuri, go
don't
ahead.
see. No, it's okay. I just wanted to say, then you don't see when things like injustice happen. There's no change.
It's not. It's not
It's not
special because you
different.
see it all over the place. You see it all over the place.
He's just dark and depressed the whole time. So then
Yeah.
he's just angry, and then we're like, okay, I guess you're just the same character the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
It
but yeah,
feels
no,
like
Jason.
they tried to bring him as dark as Batman. Like it almost felt like killing his father that early, they were trying to create another origin story for
Right.
him. And it's like he's already an alien orphan. Like he just got dropped off on a planet. Like what else? I mean, he's traumatized. What else does he need? Like why you gotta kill his dad like that soon?
Like Superman's not depressing. He saves people from depression. Like let him be super. Just let him be super, bro. That's all I got.
Worst.
That's all I got on that.
The worst things that happen about those movies, to me, are the things that happened in the background, the smaller events, which are more like the fact that Lois walked around. It was so easy for her to find out who he was. It was so easy, and afterward, in multiple movies, they talked about him being Clark or Superman around other police and other things. So it was like those are the smaller things, and the fact that Lex Luthor basically formed the Justice League for them. It was insane to me. It was insane. But I'm sorry, Richard. We haven't got to your origin story.
It is really one of those things where if you think about the lengths that they go through to make Superman vulnerable, that's the hard part. It's like he's got such great powers. And I think it was only who's the guy when he was only time you see him unleash full force against a foe is like what's Darkseid, right?
Darkseid.
Everybody else, he's like the world is made of paper. And so going through this whole series of things of being, angst ridden and like it's it's a conscious effort though. If you think about where DC Comics and all of those comic books were when they called it the Golden Age, where pretty much every superhero was super powered, they were super rich.
Yeah.
And straight down that line of truth, justice, and the American way. And if you think about just that little pause in there where Marvel started to come in with characters that had problems and social issues and bad skin. And then
Nice the way you slipped that in there. Really nice.
Not bad skin.
And so then DC was in that imbalance part where they were like, well, who could we imperfect? They did a great job of making Batman flawed and kind of sinister and might kill somebody. But then everybody else, it was still like by the time they got to this set of movies, I was so excited going in and so coming out. You know the feeling?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the way, they did a good job of making Aquaman powerful because nobody used to want to wear the Aquaman underoos.
Mhm.
Like you were super lame, he was just riding in the big seat with Wonder Woman. But that's my generation. But if you think about all of those things that they're trying to pull together, and they tried to do it in one long, slow movie, I feel like Cyborg didn't get a chance to get his due and get his. I'm always rooting for there to be a black superhero. So every time that happens, it's like. Man,
you even feel that way about
right here. You're playing football, then you're hurt, then you're mad at your daddy. Damn it. There we go.
Omar, do you feel that way about the Snyder Cut, though? Do you feel like even with the Snyder Cut that Cyborg didn't really get his due?
Snyder Cut was much better. Once I got my endurance together, I didn't know. I'm old. I can't just be sitting down for a long time. It's like, it's a nap coming. It's a nap.
I watched Snyder Cut for the whole 4 hours in one
Same.
sitting. I thought I was going to break it up in two, but it was really they kind of work magic with that. Whatever they had to Zack Snyder had to pull together to make it happen. I thought it turned out really great. Really great. And I think Cyborg, the depth into which they went into his abilities to show when he went in and looked at the woman's history and was looking at all the money and just pulled money into and like that to me was amazing. It was amazing because it really digs in to what his potential is.
I want to say that I feel as if there was like a lot of attention paid to Cyborg that Zack Snyder really wanted to do well. And to be honest, I'm definitely not a Zack Snyder supporter for his version of superheroes at all. I feel like they're just too depressing and too dark, and I just feel like he doesn't really get their heroism as much. But I love the fact that he was able to do his own cut, especially in the reasons why he had to leave because of his daughter's suicide. Like I was like, yeah, you got to do your own thing. And then Joss Whedon came in, but I was like, I'm glad that you finally got some funds to actually do your own cut in support and in tribute to your daughter. And I'm all about that. Like that's an uncompromised vision. Do I like that uncompromised vision? No, I do not. I don't. But I do wish that Ray Fisher was able to get his own Cyborg film or the whole thing that where he was supposed to work with the Flash. I would have loved to see a movie between the two of them. Honestly, even though I don't necessarily like Zack Snyder's Justice League, but there was something about the level of detail for Cyborg that I actually really appreciated, and I wish that I could see more of that. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think DC fell into the trap of feeling like they had to compete with Marvel.
Yes.
I think if they had taken the time to establish these worldwide properties on their own before trying to cram them into one universe, then it would have been so much more established. We would have been invested in them as individuals and then get to see them come together as a team. But they saw where Marvel was at and thought that they had to skip all the steps that Marvel took to get where they were at. So I think that was just a misstep a huge misstep on their part. Because I mean, how do you have Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and Flash in your stable and you still can't get it together? I mean, these are people. If you had told me that I'd be rooting for Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Thor over those people when I was younger, I would have told you were crazy. But they just made you so. They elevated. Marvel did such a good job of elevating your expectations. Like you went into the Guardians of the Galaxy movie saying, I don't know who these people are, but I'll watch it. And you walk out loving them. And so I just feel like they've done so much more with lesser established properties, whereas DC has these huge established properties and they just don't meet the expectations of what you feel like they can be.
I think that's my problem.
Disappointing.
I think that's my problem with Warner Brothers versus Disney. As you know, Disney does a lot of stuff. But like, um, but when it comes to like the machine of it all, they get people for the most part who know what they're doing. Jon Favreau knows what he's doing when it comes to Star Wars. Kevin Feige knows what he's doing when it comes to Marvel. These people know exactly what they're doing, and they know the steps that they want to take to get it. Whether people stop them in the process sometimes, like Isaac Perlmutter did with Kevin Feige towards the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is one thing, because he wanted to start doing Doctor Strange and Scarlet. I say Scarlet, but I always do Scarlet. I say Scarlet Widow sometimes. I'm just like, but they wanted to do Black Widow ages ago. But Isaac Perlmutter was like, no, it's not going to make us money. It's not going to make us money, because that's all he cared about. Kevin Feige, they're going to make money. But like, he wants to tell a good story, and I can tell the difference. With Warner Brothers, I'm like, you want to make money, and that's very clear that you're just like, well, we'll put whatever on screen and they'll pay for it. And most of the time people do. The first Suicide Squad was so bad, and that was the last time that I said that's the last time I will give DC my money, and I stayed true to my word. Period. End of discussion. Until James Gunn came in to do the Suicide Squad, and I said, I see what we're doing here. I like
that was great.
And that was great. Like I think I saw it in my house, and I told my boyfriend, I was like, can you just like buy movie theater tickets and we just won't go, just so that like they can make money off of us viewing this at home, because I just was thoroughly entertained by this.
I think we could talk all day about Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers failure to capture what could have been an amazing storytelling universe of these characters that existed before Marvel.
Right.
You know,
who have such fabulous origins. Like,
they do.
They just do. They had, like, everybody has. I can't think of a character that I hate their origin story, generally speaking. Like any character, even some of the more like campy or strange characters that have existed across the universes in perpetuity, I'm still like, you know what? I know where they were coming from, and I kind of get where we are at now with them. I was just reading the first Amazing Spider-Man, and it said, what did it say? Peter Palmer, and I was like, who? What happening? Who's that? But and I was like, oh, there's no Uncle Ben in here, and Uncle Ben got it added later. Like, all these things that that we know now to be the story of Spider-Man, but like, the development of all these characters, and it's just really sad that we cannot see that in this particular universe that I think most of us have a favorite character in.
For me, it's like, use the comic books. Like, you have the material. You're acting like you have to come up with something brand new. It's like you have literally decades of material to mine from.
I think their problem is that they think that they don't get a choice in the matter.
I think Zack Snyder was given some freedom. I think he chose wrong.
Yeah.
I think choosing what is it, the Dark Knight Returns, or what was the whatever it was,
it was the Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight Returns, using that graphic novel with him and Superman's issue, and then making Batman to be much older, because I guess in there had been some time, but this is the intro of these characters. There was no friendship beforehand. To say, like, Superman, we know Superman's going to live longer. His cellular density is that, so he'll live a million years. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that wasn't explained. It was foolish, And so Batman's this character who's been around. Jason Todd's already dead. Like, all this life has happened already that we don't get anything on. And Lex Luthor, who's not even Lex Luthor, he's Alexander Luthor, which is weird. And he's goofy and quirky, and he's not the same Lex Luthor we love. It's just all messed up. And then he creates all the logos for Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. He creates all these logos, has them on a thumb drive, and then they end up on their actual suits, which are created later, by the way, most of them, at least, except Wonder Woman. But it's crazy, because Aquaman wasn't swimming around in that suit. He was swimming around in his regular clothes.
He was got his own.
So how did he know what the logo was?
I feel like they assumed, because these characters were so, like, like we said, a lot of these characters existed before a lot of these Marvel characters. I felt like they leaned on the fact that, oh, people already know this, right? Oh, people already know this story, or they already know this. So I'm not gonna waste time explaining the relationship, how Batman and Superman got to this arguing, how they got to this conflict. It's like, oh, these stories have been around for so long. I feel like they assumed the audience was like, okay, we know this, and then they just wanted to jump right into the story that they wanted to tell, which is a huge mistake.
A huge mistake.
You're confused.
The only thing you can assume that people know are some people's origin stories. That's literally the only thing you can assume. Peter Parker, uncle dead, Aunt May, teenager in high school, like those
bit by spider.
Bit by
I don't
spider,
need to see Peter Parker get bit by the spider to understand where his powers come from. But tell me everything else.
Everything else. And especially depending on what wait, I can't talk about it because we haven't all seen Spider-Man. But but even so, depending on what universe that we're talking about with Spider-Man, there's slightly different permutations of how the story goes. Whether or not it's like it's a biochemical thing that comes from his skin with the web shooters, or if it's something that he builds, or if he's really good at making his own costume, or if it's Tony Stark. Like, there's just so many different permutations. So you have to tell that part of the story. The story of Jason Todd, only people who know that are people who read comic books. And these movies are not just for us.
Yeah, I don't know why you would want to skip that in movie form.
Most people don't know who Jason Todd is.
It's such a good. You could have started with that. Honestly, you could have. I mean, if you want to start somewhere, start with Death in the Family, because we know enough about Batman to know his origin. We know that there's been a Robin, so to start with the new Robin, and that would have been such a great.
Speaking of characters that get no shine, Robin gets no shine.
He doesn't. Well, Robin,
and that Titan show is not it.
No. I was just gonna ask. I was just gonna bring. That's why I had my hand up, because I was gonna say, who watches Titans and who is really bothered and disturbed at what they did to Batman?
I am. I definitely am.
I'm gonna watch it eventually.
Really bothered by what they did to Batman.
Oh,
I didn't finish it. I got to a certain point and I was like,
oh my goodness.
Because I mean, I did give it a chance. I did give it a chance.
I watch shows a lot of times, and I keep watching them just because I'm like, if a show has like sci-fi comic book like superpowers or something, I'll give it a chance. But what they did to Batman, that was Batman fans can't be happy. Real Batman fans cannot.
Yo, I have a Batman tattoo on my back, so
I know you're pissed. I know you're
I'm that Batman guy. So when you give me this old version of Batman that's just like running away from everything, and it's
that right there.
Yeah,
like
the old was bad
Batman
enough.
is all about owning up to responsibility to take care of the things that the problems that he's created. He's not gonna jet off to some island somewhere and leave
an
a
iron
Robin
will
to take care of a problem that he created.
Batman was going to blow up the entire planet in that. What's that cartoon with Darkseid?
Apocalypse,
Apocalypse one. And he was like, "I'm ready to blow up this entire planet with you and me on it. I don't give a shit." Like, and that's the kind of Batman that I pay for.
Yeah. And Darkseid respected him for it, because he said anybody else that tried that gambit.
Yeah, there's something about Titans and Batwoman. Batwoman, like the reasons that they give for why Batman is not there, or Batman is terrible, or Batman is dead. Like there's all these reasons that I'm just like, you don't know how to actually honor the character in a way. Like, I can understand that you want to tell a new story. That's fine. But you don't have to destroy what is the essence of a character or disregard what is the essence of that character in order to do a new story. You can just, if you want to do a new story and bring a new character, then create something new, fine. But there's something about not trusting what is already awesome about that character for some reason that I don't necessarily get, even from a filmmaker or a director standpoint, or from someone who's a showrunner. I'm just like, I see where you might be going with this, where your brain was like, I want to put my own stamp. I get your own stamp, but you can put your own stamp on something that is already awesome. Like, you can take that awesome to a different direction, a new direction, but you don't need to get rid of what's awesome about that character to do that. There's something about it boggles my brain.
How do you feel about then? I know it hasn't come out yet, but then how do you all feel about Robert Pattinson? I know we've just only seen trailers and stuff. How do we feel about how we think he's going to be portrayed as Batman? Because I think that he, from what I've seen in the trailers, he's not just brooding, like he looks like he has been traumatized, which makes the most sense to me. His parents are killed and he cannot process that, so he goes and he's a vigilante and he starts killing people, and he's still traumatized from that. And I think that's how you should play it.
I'm
I
excited.
guess
No, I was gonna say I like the entry point. I think it's coming at a place where he's not just starting. It's not Batman Begins. It's like year 2. I think is where they're going with it.
Year
So
2. It's year 2.
I like the fact that he's on a certain part of his journey. Seemingly, all we've got are trailers.
Right.
But my hope is that we see him come out of this part of it to become the Batman that we know. That's not. He seems psychotic right now.
Right.
Like
as he should.
Unbalanced.
I feel like he should.
And so
Sure,
I'm hoping that this is just something he's getting through this part of the journey to be the Batman that we all recognize. I personally am tired of seeing new Batman. They can't seem to keep one for more than a few movies, and I just want to see them stick with one. Like, I want to see if this is going to be the guy, then let him be the guy for more than 2 movies before you recast him with somebody else.
So okay. So is it more that they're recasting Batman or that they're starting Batman over? Because, for instance, like the old Michael Keaton Batman, they recast. Of course, they did worse going forward. But is it the recast that's the problem, or is it more like they're starting the whole story over again?
I don't mind it if they're gonna take it a unique direction. The thing for me is that it seems like we get to see the same villains all the time. When Batman has probably the best rogues gallery of any, maybe next to X-Men, has the best rogues gallery of anybody in comics, and we get to see like 4 or 5 of them redone over and over, and same stories told over and over and over again. I just want to see something. I want to see him on a journey. Like, I feel like you never get to see the journey of Batman because it's always just starting somebody over again and trying to establish this new person as Batman. So then we get to go all the way from point A back to point C instead of seeing him go to FGH.
Which is why we can never get to a Robin, like anymore. Like, which is why we can never get to a Robin at this point. I mean, back in the 90s when they were doing those particular versions of Batman, it was like the sexy 90s.
You mean when they zoomed in on the butt cheeks and the nipples, nipples on the suits?
It was the sexy 90s. So everybody was sexy. Robin was sexy. He was no longer a child. He was sexy. They weren't gay. It was sexy. And so, like, it was just like,
But it was silly, though.
I'm not gonna lie.
It was silly.
I did buy that Val Kilmer silver suit toy. I did buy that. I enjoyed that suit. I was just like, you know what? If I could go as Halloween as this Batman suit, silver Batman suit, I was like, this would be killer. I did like that. I don't like the way that they sexualize it. No, but I was like, this Batman suit is kind of cool.
Yeah. But like,
Val Kilmer wasn't the worst. It was when
he wasn't the worst.
It wasn't the worst. It was George Clooney's edition. First of all, I didn't care for George Clooney as Batman because he talks with a head wobble. Like, all the time, his head is always, when he talks, his head moves like this. And I couldn't imagine it was Bruce Wayne and he failed. Yeah, if you notice George Clooney talking, any single movie you watch George Clooney, he talks with his head cocked to the side and his head moves like this. So yeah, watch anything.
I'm gonna look for that.
Yeah, any George Clooney movie. And also it was too silly. Arnold Schwarzenegger, all right, everybody, chill. It was just too much. All of they tried to, it was so silly, and I think it destroyed.
Well, because they were trying to make they were trying to make, what's the word? They were trying to make action figures. So it was like the sexy 90s and also action figures.
They had that merchandise. They had that money.
The merchandise was all they cared about and all they were like trying to get out of the movies. And so as we go, like, I don't know, the only thing I think right now about Robert Pattinson is that his teeth look weird.
Sorry.
Whenever I'm watching this trailer, I've watched it like several times at this point, maybe 10. And so every time it comes on and he's wearing the cowl, and for some reason when he's like where
What have you
whatever he's
done?
doing.
What have you done?
He's like, what have you done? And his teeth, they just look like like weird little like chiclet gum teeth, and I don't know why. I don't know why I think that, because I think Robert. It's really funny because listen, when Harry Potter came out, and when I hated the Harry Potter movies, by the way, because I love the books, and I was like,
Diggory.
I was
Gotcha.
Cedric Diggory, I was like, yes, could get it. But in the context of just seeing the lower half of his mouth and his teeth, I don't know, something weird.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that because I used to feel the same way about George Clooney's chin in the Batman costume.
Yeah.
They'll say he just has a very prominent chin, and I was just like, wow.
But not in a good way.
Not in a good way. Not for that suit.
No, I was just going to say one more thing about Batman. Even the Nolan films with Christian Bale, I mean, his teeth didn't really fit as I thought, and especially let's not even talk about the voice, right? They should have used the voice modulator, but his voice, but his
not everyone can be Kevin Conroy.
I know,
true.
but
Yes.
they should have used a voice
He's the
spoofer or
Batman.
something, because it was just, hey, what are you doing? And it was weird, it was crazy. But once you got past that, though, I think once you got past that, I mean, Nolan, I'm sorry, I don't want to go back into Zack Snyder, because Nolan should have never helped executive produce those movies, but whatever. Yeah, let's go on. I'm sorry.
No, I have a question for the whole panel, especially including Michael, but like we've talked a little bit about the Batman animated series, and what's been great to me about that show is which I think is also a great thing about the comics, is like it allows Batman to be in a world that's fantastic while grounding it with a reality kind of thing, but allowing like that, what you said, Michael, before about the greatest rogues gallery, I think that's very true. Like with Penguin, Joker, Riddler, Two-Face, Catwoman, Clayface, Baby Doll, like it's got an extensive ventriloquist. Like it's got Brock, it's got an extensive rogues gallery. Like I would love, to be honest, if a Robert Pattinson film, a third film, was like the trial episode from Batman the Animated Series, like if they had an actual trial episode with all those villains putting Batman, that's a world that I would love to, which I don't think is allowed to be seen yet, really. But my thing is, like, do you think the tone of this trailer, like the tone of what's going on right now, do you think it's trying to do both of those things? Do you think it's trying to be fantastic as well as realistic? Because Nolan's films, for me, I felt like we're just grounded, we're just realistic. But so I'm like, what tone do you think you're actually getting from what you've seen right now? Do you think you're getting one or the other? Do you think you're getting both? Do you think you're getting something that's trying to do? I don't know.
It feels like noir.
Really,
very grounded to me. It seems very grounded to me. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that my favorite Batman in the movies has been Ben Affleck. Like, I know.
Wait, and
don't
favorite Batman or Bruce Wayne or both?
Because
please tell me it's the one scene that he went into the warehouse to fight. Please tell me that's it.
That's it. But no, because to me he embodies both the best. Like I've seen people and say he could be a good Bruce Wayne. I don't buy that he has the physicality to take the punishment that Batman takes. I don't buy that he's strong enough to be Batman, or he's a good Batman, but I don't buy the suave, the billionaire playboy aspect of a Bruce Wayne. Right. To me, Ben Affleck is the first person that's been able to embody both of those. You could see him as the playboy, but then he's also still got the physicality that you buy him also as Batman. And you actually get to see him like zipping around, like doing the things that you see like in the animated series. You get to see him like shoot the zip line and get pulled off somewhere, and just fly around with the the acrobatics and all that of
you don't see the detective work. You don't see that detective work though.
You don't, but I think that's just because he didn't he didn't have a solo movie. Like he has never had the opportunity to just be Batman. Like they put him immediately into this world of, his first movie was Batman versus Superman, where he didn't really get to be Batman. It was more about
because Lex Luthor did it for him.
No, but it's also because that was actually supposed to be Man of Steel 2, which they decided, and then they gave it,
and they crammed Batman into it.
They changed it, and
but see, this is why I like what I'm seeing in these trailers, because to me, I get what you're saying. You're thinking he embodies both versions well. But see, from what I think of Batman, it never made sense to me that Batman was this. I know that he's rich, right? But it never
Mhm.
made sense to me that he would stroll around like this rich playboy. Like, I'm like, he has way too many mental problems for that. He has no
Right.
superpowers,
Mhm.
right? So he is literally going out there to exercise these demons that he has. And it's like
Mhm.
he is like throwing his body into situations, and that makes more sense to me. That's why
Mhm.
Robert Pattinson makes more sense to me, the
I
way
like
I see it.
I can
I
see what
do
you're
have.
saying, but I think that my thing about Batman in general is that he compartmentalizes like a
Mhm.
boss.
Mm,
And
Mhm.
so when I talk about Batman, who is the real person? Is it Batman or is it Bruce Wayne? It's
mm,
Batman.
Yeah.
Batman's the real person
mhm.
because he has throughout his life
Mhm.
he has dichotomized himself so thoroughly that he cannot necessarily, it's really hard for him
Mhm.
to live as Bruce. He lives as Bruce Wayne if only to get through to the night to be Batman.
Yes,
And
yes.
so this version, I could like, it's not about being wrong or not. I think I could be intrigued by this version that we're going
Mhm.
to see by Robert Pattinson and what you're talking about, his like the angst and the all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think one of my big things about Batman and why I love Batman so much is that he doesn't fix these issues. These issues never heal
Yes.
themselves. They are never healed. He is trying to always raise a child that ends up dying or getting
Yeah.
thoroughly
Mhm.
trounced in some
Which they
way.
tried to touch on.
Yeah,
right.
they've been trying about they've been talking
Right.
about in recent comics about like healing that type of trauma for Batman so that he has other issues to deal with. But one thing I want to talk about is a little bit of geek trivia that you pointed out on is that like who is the real person, Batman or Bruce Wayne, and with everyone it is Batman. Like, but the difference between him and Superman is that Batman puts on Bruce Wayne as a costume,
Yes.
while with Superman, Clark Kent is putting on Superman as a costume for
Right.
Clark Kent. And
Yes.
like an actual like lore of DC, of the comic books themselves, is that the DC universe, the six ones, whatever universe it is, the regular universe, cannot exist without both Superman and Batman, that they have to exist
Yeah.
or the DC universe like will be messed up. It will like that is actual lore. Like they cannot you can't have a DC universe without both Superman and Batman. And
Because of the
I've
balance.
yeah,
That
it
takes me.
is
Well,
the balance.
that takes me into something else, and I'm going to touch on really quick. Does that mean the characters as far as Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, or the mantle of Batman and Superman? Because we know others have worn the mantle. But I do before you answer that question, I do want to go back to, who's played probably the best Batman. Um, for me, it was probably between Michael Keaton and the very beginning. In the
Yeah.
very beginning, and there was a point in which Christian Bale did a really the compartmentalization, him playing the playboy to the point where he was irresponsible, getting kicked out of a party.
Yeah.
All of that made sense to me because it gave him an out. It gave him reasons for people to not believe that he was able to be Batman. So if it ever came into question, it was like,
Hmm.
this guy, he's a joke. But
It's a
he's
mask.
rich. He has a trust fund,
Yeah.
and so to me, that is really what Batman needed to be.
That's a good
And then,
point.
of
Yeah.
course, over
Yeah.
time, Bruce Wayne, I'm sorry, needed to be.
Yeah.
And then over time, he could mature into the businessman who's more responsible once he takes control of the family fortune and company. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Affleck, I didn't really. I loved the warehouse scene, but besides being too old, he was too troubled. He was too beaten, kind of broken
Mhm.
and angry.
Yeah.
Right.
He's a
He was
mass
operating. He was
murderer,
he was
bro.
a
I was
killer.
like
Yeah, he was just a killer, and
Yes.
and he used way more. He used his means were more. He was like Thomas Wayne. He was that version. That's what he
yeah.
was, and it
Hmm.
wasn't Bruce Wayne to me. And so I really didn't get with him that much.
And I don't
I
want
think
to
to me that was a writer's that was a writing mistake more
true.
Oh,
than
sure.
Yeah.
his
It's
portrayal of the
all a
character.
writing mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing. Was
Yes.
The whole
huge
thing.
writing
And with
mistake.
And, but on that, I wanted to take the time to wrap up our conversation because we could talk about Batman specifically all day. But but I'm so glad that we got started on this conversation and talking about our origin stories. I'm sorry Rich couldn't make it back on. He has internet issues, but he'll be back for another episode. Yeah. So if you guys could introduce yourselves again to the crowd.
Great. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Remember, Jamal James, he, him, his. And you can find me again at the Jamal James on Instagram, Twitter, even though I don't use them that much, or on Facebook.
My name is Michael Andreas, he, him. You can find me at Michael_Andreas on IG and Twitter and Facebook as well.
My name is Jason Williams, he, him pronouns, and you can find me at Blue Ranger 83 on Instagram and just my name, Jason Williams, on Facebook.
My name is Omar Washington, he, him, and you can't find me on social media right now, but you will be able to soon. And yeah, that's it.
And my name is Zuri Washington, she, her pronouns. You can find me at Zuri with a fringe on top. Don't forget to follow the podcast on IG at Supa Black Podcast, or follow us on Twitter at Supa Podcast. And I leave us with our sign off, which is, should you need heroes, we've got your back. We fear no topic, we attack. If conversation is what you lack, you'll find it here with Supa Black. Peace, guys. Hey there, this is your current day friendly neighborhood host, and these are the conventions that are on the horizon. Every episode, we will be highlighting upcoming cons in the hopes that some of our listeners out there will be able to attend in person or online. This week, we want to give a shout out to the Simi Valley Toy and Comic Fest, which is happening live and in person on Friday, February 6th at the Grand Vista Hotel in Simi Valley, California. For more information, check out SimiValleyToyComicFest.com. Mask up and be safe. Hope to see you there.